Bakhmut is one of the most important cities that has become the center of the war. The fighting in Bakhmut is so fierce that there is not a single unaffected place in this region. The Ukrainian army is doing its best to protect Bakhmut, and the Russian army is sharply increasing its fighting in the city. Why do you think Bakhmut is so important? Because Bakhmut has a strategically very important position, and Putin thinks that if he occupies this region, he can spread much faster to Ukrainian territory. That's why the Russian army is fighting hard to take control of Bakhmut, and the Ukrainian army is fighting hard to defend itself. Putin is not giving up Bakhmut in any way. Many Russian soldiers in Bakhmut have been killed, and there is a great shortage of military personnel in the city. Putin is trying to resist this problem in Bakhmut. He is trying a lot of things to solve the problems, but he is not successful in any of them. Putin, who could not solve the problem despite declaring mobilization, continues to insist on Bakhmut for the strategic location of the city. Putin sent Wagner Group soldiers to the region in June. Because he had no other choice, the power of the soldiers sent was insufficient in Bakhmut. Wagner Group lost tens of thousands of soldiers in Bakhmut. Therefore, Putin decided to send prisoners in prisons to war. These prisoners were promised that their criminal records would be expunged if they went to the battlefield. But this move also ended in failure. Putin was defeated in every decision he made against the power of the Ukrainian army. The Ukrainian army is taking very strategic decisions against the Russian occupiers in the Bakhmut region. Recently, the Ukrainian army targeted military points belonging to the invaders. The destruction of these points caused great damage to the Russian invaders. In the operation, Ukrainian soldiers destroyed the supply routes and bridges through which the Russian invaders transported troops and ammunition, causing a huge loss to the Russian army. Now let's look at the details of the clashes in Bakhmut together. The Ukrainian army shows a historical resistance in Bakhmut and successfully expels Russian troops from the region. Because the Russian occupiers cannot defend themselves against the attacks organized by the Ukrainian army, many Russian invaders retreated from the Bakhmut region. The Ukrainian army, on the other hand, began to regain control in many areas of Bakhmut. The Ukrainian army, which performed very well in the west of Bakhmut, managed to gain the upper hand here. The Ukrainian army, which set its mind on clearing the invaders in Bakhmut from their lands through land and air operations, has upset Putin's plans to spread the Ukraine by seizing Bakhmut. The clashes in Bakhmut are being watched with great attention by the whole world. The UK Ministry of Defense said the following about the fighting in Bakhmut. In the town center, the Bakhmutka River now defines the front line. Ukrainian forces hold the west of the town and have destroyed key bridges over the river, which runs from north to south along a 200 meters, 800 meters wide strip of open space, with Ukrainian troops firing from fortified buildings to the west. This area has become a killing zone and is likely to make it extremely difficult for Wagner's forces to attempt to continue their frontal assault westwards. In Bakhmut, the Russian occupiers seem to have no chance. This is because many of the troops sent to this area are repulsed by the successful attacks of the Ukrainian army, or their deaths are inevitable. The destruction of the bridges over the Bakhmutka River caused a great loss for the Russian invaders. Because the invaders were carrying out their attacks by dispersing to different parts of Bakhmut through these bridges. The destruction of these bridges meant that the Russian invaders could not exist anywhere except the eastern region. Further operations of the Ukrainian army may take place in eastern part of Bakhmut. It seems that the Ukrainian army will in no way leave Bakhmut in the hands of the Russian occupiers. Bakhmut was the subject of the meeting organized by the Ukrainian High Command a few days ago. Speaking about Bakhmut, Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief General Valery Zaluzny and Ukrainian Land Forces Commander Colonel General Alexander Syrskyi made some statements about the meeting ended. The decision made after the meeting was to further strengthen the presence of the Ukrainian army in this region. Everyone at the meeting stated that the resistance in Bakhmut must continue. Putin had invested a lot of money in the Bakhmut area. The failure in Bakhmut caused huge losses for the Russian army. Putin's dreams of expanding into Ukrainian territory through Bakhmut were completely destroyed. About 30,000 of the Wagner Group troops sent to the Bakhmut were killed by the successful offensive of the Ukrainian army. The Wagner Group also suffered a huge loss, because more than half of the soldiers of the Wagner Group were fighting in the Bakhmut area. The problems faced by the soldiers of the Wagner Group are increasing day by day. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the boss of the Wagner Group company, expressed his anger with a recent post. Prigozhin shared the corpses of Wagner Group soldiers in his post and stated that his soldiers died due to lack of weapons and ammunition. Because the Wagner Group soldiers could not obtain weapons and ammunition from the Russian army. This post of Prigozhin revealed that he had some problems with Valery Gerasimov, the chief of the General Staff of Russia, because the chief of the General Staff before Gerasimov was Prigozhin's closest friend, and Prigozhin could supply as much ammunition and weapons as he wanted. Prigozhin, strengthened by the help of his friend, announced that he had captured Soledar, but this announcement changed the whole color of things. Prigozhin reported a new development on his Telegram account, which proved that Putin had cut off communication with the Wagner Group. Prigozhin summarized the events as follows. To prevent me from asking for ammunition, they have switched off all private telephone lines in all offices and units and blocked all my access to the organizations responsible for decision-making. Now I will only be able to ask for more material through the media, and I will most likely do just that. Prigozhin became almost addicted to power because of his popularity throughout the war. Prigozhin even stated that the operations and successes in Bakhmut and Soledar were all thanks to the Wagner Group. Prigozhin could no longer tolerate the presence of the Russian army, and both Prigozhin and the soldiers of the Wagner Group began to make the Russian army vomit blood. This situation drove a wedge between Prigozhin and Putin, and Prigozhin, as someone who had become addicted to power, started some work for a post-Putin Russia. In Russia, there were a lot of rumors about important figures. There were rumors that Prigozhin had made a deal with Kadyrov, the leader of the Chechen troops, for a post-Putin Russia. It was even thought that they were sharing secret information about the war with each other. Putin has become unable to trust even his closest friends, because they no longer supported Russia either. They thought that Ukraine would win the war and Putin would fall from power. Everyone thinks that the only reason Putin is continuing this war is to protect his own power and reputation. This is causing great anger among the Russian people. The Russian people do not trust Putin, because Putin does not care that people die for the sake of his power. The Russian people organize demonstrations on the streets every day to stop the war. Putin is in a very tight situation, because he cannot trust anyone. Even his closest friends are stabbing him in the back. Putin is in a great decline and he can't stop it. The fate of Russia worries everyone. What do you think about this? Do you think Putin will give up his decision to invade? What are your thoughts on the allegations about Prigozhin and Kadyrov? How will the problems experienced by the Wagner Group affect the course of the war? Do not forget to share your thoughts with us.
Thanks for watching. You can support us by subscribing to our channel.